Alright, good evening everybody, and welcome to the 51st episode of the Librarian playthrough playing as Ivan Vucetich, the detective. We had a big moment at the end of yesterday's stream, or broadcast, video, VOD, whatever we want to call it, in the sense that we found the wreck of the Crystal. So, if you first play Cultist Simulator, first of all, you've already taken if you're first playing Cultist Simulator, you probably haven't made it here unless you're following the wiki. But if you've not played the game all the way through, it may not be obvious that this is a fairly significant site. And I mean, in the end, it's probably significant just because of sort of the sentiment. Yeah, I'd say probably just player sentiment. Like, essentially it comes down to how people feel about the relative difficulty of getting certain things. So the Crystal has an object called the Frangiclave. It's a very powerful knock artifact, and if you notice a couple of traits of it, I'll show you specifically how it works, but basically there is a higher level location which requires you to use a mirror, and by using a mirror it will be shattered. And what you wind up doing is you pay a Spintra and a Forge follower to be able to fix something. And essentially it just means it's a bit more work. Like, it's more work than just showing up for work to be able to go to the Peacock Door. The Frangiclave, again, is a powerful knock artifact, is essentially able to open anything, and as a consequence, it's a much more straightforward way of being able to get the things that you need behind the Peacock Door. So it's particularly important for me because I only have 7 bronze Spintra and 1 silver Spintra, and so as a result, there would be a finite number of trips I can make to the Peacock Door without this particular object. So this is the main reason why I want it, but in general, people like it because it is a pretty powerful artifact, and it's one that makes life quite a bit easier. So, storms have lifted the Crystal from the sea to lay it on a reef, but a wreck with such a sad end will carry a curse, and the beast that once loved it remains there still. So I'm assuming probably this is going to be something we need to add Enid or Neville to, but we'll give it some time. I'm trying to remember why I wanted to, or what I would keep the talk verb open for. Expedition continues. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. So, Creeping Breath Curse needs Grail or Heart. Basically, Grail's a non-starter, so we'll add the Heart people right away. And yes, the younger sister also requires a knock follower, or alternatively Edge, but feels bad if I kill the younger sister. Exceptional work. This is something special. It may provoke a reaction. Okay, so always happy to get a little extra heart. My recent work has accrued modest fame. My paintings have reviewed well. There was something I was meaning to do between recordings, but I notice there is something to be said for momentum in videos. I notice if I take a long break in between videos, it takes me about twice as long to get these finished. So I try where I can to sort of crash into the next video right away. So there is going to be one thing that I checked just because I wanted to check it before I started here, and it was just regarding the expeditions that I need to do. Oh, that's right, I didn't call these anything sensible. Okay, so I see here 4 Rending Mountains. Let me just double check what we've got here. Okay, so we have Forbidden Epics, which are land beyond the forest. So let's start with that. So 5 locations, land beyond the forest, Kanishka the Spider's Door, Silver Book, all of these are things that we almost certainly have. Yeah, so there's the silver book. So there's no surprises there. So land beyond the forest, we're fine. So Rending Mountain. So interestingly enough, there's only 4. So we're almost there with the unresolved ambiguities. After which we would go to the next level, which would be Vagabond's Maps, and that's the Lone and Level Sands. Those are also only 4 locations, and then we would need the remaining Evening Isles, which also seem to be 4. So I guess it's a total of 12 locations we're looking for. It could also be that some of these only have... like, some of these don't have books, which is why I've labeled them this way. But yeah. I'm a bit surprised, but reasonably happy that we don't have as many expeditions to do as I thought. Easier said than done, though, right? We still need to put the effort in. So, all right, my recent work. Let me pick those up. I should do the inspector job before I get fired. And this can still hurt me with fascination, so I do want to combine it with the fleeting reminiscence. Alright, the sailor's surety. Our forge skills represent plenty of expertise. We'll almost certainly make it through. Now, I don't need the extra heart for this particular issue, but in this case, I want to add the second heart for the curse anyway. So, storms rise for the Thunderskin and subside for the sister. The right words should carry us safe across the sea. So in this case here, adding Valsine was completely useless. I just wasn't anticipating that I would need the heart. I probably should have because of the mention of the curse, but I will go to my room and think about what I've done after the broadcast. The sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. We do have a couple betrayed followers, so we can go to the spider's door. These will probably be some of my last trips to the spider's door, so I might as well get my money's worth. What am I doing? I'm pretty sure I just made my life a lot more difficult. I said I was going to need to get rid of the fascination with the fleeting reminiscence. Alright, so unfortunately I don't think the fleeting reminiscence is going to last long enough to be able to fix my problem. Yep, it's going to go away. Safe across the sea, waves lashed and sea spattered, sun scorched and salt stained, but here. Alright, and I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one we know. So I think I'm just gonna... Nope, for this one we want to improve the Forbidden Epic because we've got the Glimmering. So history is less certain than we are taught. I can learn from the study of its blurred edges. And at this point I should probably be getting Saliba to go out and get me some food for the spider's door. Alright, progress. The constant clatter of closing doors, the damp stains on the station walls, the smell of boot polish and unwashed constables. All this narrows to a single crystalline truth. I've made progress and earned myself some overtime pay. So what I'm going to do here is we'll wait on the passage of time. I basically want to lock away the troublemaker in an investigation before they can go after our locations. Now again, it's just Karashim that they'd be going after, but I still don't want to create problems for myself. That's our last Rending Mountains location, so I'm happy with that. Last night in the Mansus, I visited the Mallory from whose hammers and crucibles was one that does not emerge unchanged. I'm sorry, I'm going to have a quick drink of coffee. And for 9 beats my heart ceased while it entered the fires of the forge, and the passions of the forge entered into it. I woke with the dawn, and its poor divided colors inspire memories of the forge's passion for the sun, of the vagabond's curse, of the grail's deep longing. So many half-memories. Okay. So we wait on the work slot. 15 seconds is more than enough time for what I need to do here, but I'm going to leave it aside. I don't think there's anything I need to do dream-wise, so we use the follower, and then we're not quite ready to add Enid yet, so I'll just add the funds. Into the night, wisdom is a country, and these are its maps. So now we're gonna lock away the troublemaker. When I say lock away the troublemaker, I just mean use them in the work slot. Obviously, I can literally lock them up with damning evidence. That doesn't necessarily solve anything for me, though. And we have a Season of Despair, so as long as I don't have any dread that generates, then I'm fine with the Season of Visions. We call upon the Mother of Ants, with which openeth. The serpent rears up like a swelling river. Its eyes are slitted pits of hunger. Perhaps the serpent will respect the power we bear. Tunok? You know what? If you're going to throw someone at a serpent, you got to throw Neville at a serpent. The serpent's mouth is large enough... Sorry, call upon the Mother of Ants, which ariseth from wounds, as opposed to call upon the Mother of Ants, which openeth. The serpent's mouth is large enough to crouch in. Its tongue is the thickness of a man's shoulders, but almost certainly it will respect the power we bear. I am disciplined. I am all discipline. I haven't lasted this long to give up so easily. So we'll provide the library because we don't have the erudition. On the night my follower is whispering words that sometimes they might mean, even if my victim knows the words are lies, they may not care. The serpent's sorrow, it lowers its great head. It lowers its great head. Moisture seeps from its lidless eyes. Is it weeping? What does it remember of its eldest sister, whose power we call upon? It weeps because the Christabel did not requite its love. Anyways, we don't have a body to throw into the spider's door, so we will just twiddle our thumbs with the dream slot for now. There it is. Is that it? We've got 36 seconds on that glimmering, so I better hope it turns out. And we'll wait to see what happens in the... with the passage of time. My minion is returned attended by a prisoner rendered docile with delight. So, thank you, Saliba. Return to your duties. The spider's door is always thirsty, always. The blood here I have given here leaks and threads and spills through the skin of the world. The door drinks, and a moment's satisfaction swells its opening until I can pass. It occurred to me that I can just add the troublemaker now, because I may need to renew... Okay, we're fine. I don't really need to add the funds, but it makes me feel better. You've noticed I have a very strong tendency to say, like, there's multiple examples in terms of these videos where I outright state what my intentions are, and quite literally the next action after unpausing is the opposite of what I said, and it is just purely because I'm trying to keep a few other things in mind. The worst offender by far is just looking over to the recording program and making sure everything's still running. And this may have no basis in in science at all, but I think the worst one for me by far is jumping between the game world, so the world of Cultist Simulator, where I sort of have an understanding of all these different relationships. So I know I want to keep the reason in here because I don't want to open this book. I don't want to generate a dread because that will keep this around. And I want to generate a fleeting reminiscence because it'll get rid of I am seeing things. And then, we've talked a little bit about how there will be sort of these chain reactions of verbs depending on certain actions that I take. So all of that is fairly reasonable in terms of keeping it in track in your head. I mean, this is something that it's a game that has been designed for people to be able to play it and beat it and enjoy it, and more importantly, to be able to think about a fairly complex world that has been created for the game here, right? Like, one of the things I appreciate immensely about Cultist Simulator is the fact that there is a set of things that I was interested in when I first played the game. Those things remain interesting, but obviously, and especially with the DLC, more and more has been revealed about this world, and I think it's fair to say that the writing in this game is such that someone like me, who maybe has more of a surface level appreciation of the lore and things like that, can enjoy it. But it's also very clear that there's quite a bit more going on in terms of sort of the background, and there's like the enigmas, and there's all those other things. I can give you one example here. Obviously I'm not going to read too much about the I can't read these, and translating them would not really be all that useful. But so actually, are these? All right, I can't because they actually have slightly different text. But I'm thinking particularly of some of the so there's a few cases. So there are these figures that have their wings sheared. There's this idea of wanting to go to wolf fours, but remembering that you walk upright. I am fairly certain, I'm actually trying to remember what the real hint of this was, but there is sort of a pre-human faction, group, species, whatever you want to call it, that is referred to. It may even be what humanity was before. Like, again, this is one of these. It would be nice if I could have specific documents to refer to. But yeah, for these things, right? Like that. That's not obvious to me. At the very least, it wasn't obvious to me when I read it the first time, right? I just have a story about someone who had their wings severed. But as you read on, especially when these things keep getting repeated, it's kind of an indication the game's sort of saying, okay, this is important enough, and particularly if you're thinking of works by different people who are all looking at something on their own, they're all referring to something. These are worth spending some time looking at. Like, another example you can get here would be the Time of Division, right, in which Amira Zara prophesies the events later known as the Intercalate, when the hour called the Sun and Splendor will be divided. So, this is a pretty significant event. A very large number of the cards will refer to the time of the sun's division, or it's the origin of a number of hours. It's a huge event inside of the timeline. And again, when you see repeated references to things, it becomes a bit more helpful. But even when there's a single reference, it can be a single reference that exists within this larger body of understanding, at which point you go, okay, this was the puzzle piece that allowed me to connect between these, one of these other items. And so, I don't know, like, it's one of these things that I think you can only appreciate after playing a game like this for a while, but the writing works at a few different levels. So, what was my first interest in the game? I really liked the fact that it was a game that, so there's a few different things that I liked. Number one, I like the fact that it was this game that seemed to basically be about the division, the kind of this, your desire to do certain things. If you like Joseph Campbell, following your bliss. If you, or follow your passion, if you had a certain type of, guidance counselor or career, I don't even remember what they call it. In movies they call it guidance counselor. I never had a guidance counselor at school, but I think we all know the type of instructor we're referring to, or the thing you really want to do, and the fact that the world, if not is actually hostile to these ideas, at the very least it feels that way. And I particularly like the fact that the game also wrapped this up. There's I don't even think they were ever like official. I don't think it was ever an official subtitle, but it's often called like Apocalypse and Yearning. And it was funny because I never wrote the article, but I really had this feeling that I was quite annoyed that apocalypse was always referring to the end of the world, which obviously that is part of it, but it was never dealing with like the revelation side of it. That, you know, an apocalypse always like the zombie apocalypse always has zombies and never has the revelation part. And I'm sure probably people who are, I'm sure people who are sufficiently interested in, you know, Cultist Simulator do not need to be told that, you know, there's a whole genre of apocalyptic literature. I kind of feel like for me, like the most common set of references would still be Christian, right? So I'm thinking like Book of Daniel, Book of Revelation. I'm sure there's stuff in the Apocrypha that I can't remember on its own, but by no means, like, again, I'm just kind of taking my own background. I do not mean to suggest at all that it is specifically a Christian tradition. And again, like they make for awesome heavy metal album covers, but there's more that you can do with it. And I often feel that, like, especially for indie games, right, these are the things that should be creating these very narrow and interesting appeals to the people who, like, really get it. The elect, you know, the people who are going to be able to pick up on the references. So needless to say, I was very interested when, you know, if you're just kind of walking around and you have this idea in your head, you know, oh man, what a drag that, you know, we focus on apocalypse as just, you know, synonymous with the end of the world and don't recognize the larger literary tradition in which it participates. And then you find out about a game called Cultist Simulator, and you're like, ooh, this seems like someone who's thinking about something interesting. So that was an initial appeal as well. And then, of course, you know, I like the game, I play it more, and then I realize that there's a little bit more going on inside the world. I can remember, I actually think, at a conversation with someone who is very, very knowledgeable about the game, and I believe in that conversation I was still at a point where I was inappropriately interchanging principles and hours. And yes, there are some that's more appropriate. So if you say like Lantern, you know, the Watchman, like probably most people are going to understand what you're talking about, although the Watchman is not Lantern so far as I can tell, any more than, you know, Grail is not Grail, Passion. Moth is Passion. Right? But yeah, like it's you know, you gain understanding, you read and you reread, and you suddenly discover that there's this big, wonderful world around it. And I'm sure there was a deeper point that I was going to be making, but it just occurred to me that I've been spending a lot of time talking about this stuff, which I'm sure some of you are already familiar with, so let's unpause and keep going. But yeah, in any case, all of this was just an opportunity for me to say that I can live inside the world here, and it's, you know, even I can, you know, this game is built in such a way that I can read the lore and maybe get a bit of a hint as to something bigger going on so that I can pursue that later. But as soon as I move to the other world of volume levels and, you know, recording timer, like everything that I do in terms of just making sure that I don't go for an hour, is all tied up on that other screen. And as soon as I go over to it, I definitely tend to forget my plans. So with that in mind, let's take a quick review of what we're up to. So a contentment in 38 seconds. We will be getting a fleeting reminiscence in 38.5 seconds, which will get rid of the fascination. We are pursuing an investigation. This may generate dread, but the contentment will deal with that. Entering the spider's door, hopefully getting another unresolved ambiguity. We are moving up our forbidden epics into unresolved ambiguities anyway. We are working on the Crystable, so it's just going to be a question of the curse at this point, whether or not I get hit by it, and we're trying to get more food for the spider's door. I am back on track for the remaining 6 minutes of this broadcast. We call upon the Ringu, who is renewed. We are almost certainly strong enough in heart to be secure against this curse. Aha, there it is. Is that it? You have resolved an intuition challenge. Alright. that's gonna have a bit of a... I'm gonna have to worry about the fascination at some point, but it's not a major problem right now. Last night in the Mantis, I visited the Mallory, from whose impulses and rotations one does not emerge unchanged. There are many radiances there, from the fires and the forge and her names and her instruments, but one radiance lingers behind them all like fading music. The last light of the sun and splendor shed in the moments of his division, here where the forge is strongest. Now that I have awoken, I see that radiance still. Right, my investigations turned up no new leads. That's fine there. I'm kind of leaving these a bit empty, but I don't think it's the worst option here right now. So we'll let the timer sort of run down on this and see if we can if we need to lock away the troublemaker for a bit. Oh, my minion returned empty-handed, but I don't think they're wounded. We should have paid closer attention to the description. Nuts. Dormant Creeping Breath Curse. The Creeping Breath Curse has not yet come due. The curse clings. There is a price to be paid when one trespasses in a place like this. Someday soon the curse will tighten around us. So, to be honest with you, I'm not 100% sure how I'm going to get the... I think it's heart. The best I can do is hope for the... Actually, maybe that's an excuse for me to keep some of the spider door stuff locked away. I've increased my knowledge of the secret histories behind the one we know. Got 11 seconds, so we'll hold on to that. I don't have a glimmering, so I think it's just the furtive truth at this point. Okay, so this is definitely a time I want to lock away the troublemaker. I probably shouldn't have... I should have probably reconsider the way that I did this, but I'm locked in it now, so I'm going to just let the inspector's position run down as low as it can. And then we'll get rid of the troublemaker. I can let it go a little bit lower, but a fraction of a second doesn't really get me that much, and on the odd chance like a card slips or something like that, it's not worth that kind of a risk. A closed eye. The ship still stinks of the sea. A sluggish octopus crawls from our lamplight. The timbers are half coral. Where are the bodies of the crew? Only one survivor was recorded. Did the serpent devour the rest? And here we go. We found the captain's cabin. The logbook is here, but its pages are a mass of salt cake pulp. Someone has scratched a closed eye symbol on the desk where it was chained. Beneath the symbol is a hidden drawer in the desk, in which we can wrench open and loot its treasures. We have the Book of the White Cat, stories brought to Penelope of Gordian by a blind white cat. The beloved Frangiclave. There are keys that open doors, and then there are keys that destroy them. So what's also worth noting here, right, is there's nothing about the Frangiclave that indicates that that it's necessarily going to be something that can open the Peacock's door. I'll show you how you can sort of figure that out. And so first of all, the description like this should be a bit of a hint. But this may be interesting, so I might be able to summon Azim with that. Writhing call. Lay your hand on these tattered folds and feel their warmth. Leave your hand upon it, and it will explore the possibilities of embrace. The Book of the Extinguished Heart, a book of melancholy prophecy. and a bunch of people. Okay, it's actually not a bad time to let it wrap up. So, the Frangiclave, big development for us. Trying to think of the right way to try and handle the curse here, because I think I only get like a minute once the curse becomes active, and I don't think there's any kind of warning that it comes available. I don't know. I need to think a little bit about this. So the fleeting reminiscence will deal with the intensity of radiance, hopefully. At this point, so I probably should use the Port Noon anecdote and, yeah, well, I'll try to preserve the Caligan. This is kind of stupid that I'm doing this, but search the city, crowded thoroughfares by day, a fog-wrapped labyrinth by night. I'll set my minions to searching for opportunities. So I think what I'll do is I'll wait until I have my my talk verb available, and then we'll use the Caligan to, we'll just talk to the Caligan, and we'll get the remaining Port Noon anecdote taken care of, and then it's just a question of, taking the unresolved ambiguities, turning them into locations. I've got 5 now, so that should already cover all of the Rending Mountains, and then we move them up to higher level locations. As far as the Peacock, no, I have to talk to the Peacock Door, so I will talk about that in another episode. But yes, thank you very much for watching. I think there should be one more episode for the week, so whether or not we get hit by the curse, we'll see what, we'll see what we can do for our remaining expeditions. Based on my little sheet here, so the ones that are, there are 3 works that are only available in auction, so far as I can, or that, sorry, exclusively available for auction. De Bellis Murorum in Latin, Stum, and the true and complete, I call it true complete Asclepian Greek, so I think you know the one I'm referring to. I've got 5 capital vaults, although 2 does not have it, so 4 locations in the capital that have books. There's a huge number of works that are available at Moorlands, so 26 books, and 3 of them are exclusive to Moorlands, so the Viennese Conundra, Kitling Ripe, and Wrapped in the King. The Hebe Stanton books are, I believe, exclusive to the Hebe Stanton, so that's 4 unique to them. So for the Evening Isles, I have 4 locations. Now again, I can still get them from the generic location, but the generic location even then is still hard to get, right? So we have, wait a minute, Big Huff Fusin? Oh yeah, no, my deeds, my powers, my achievement. Yeah, this is Big Huff for sure. But we don't have Origins of the Hours, so I don't have Isles 1 yet. Yeah, anyways, neither here nor there. Actually, come to think, no, we got the Book of the White Cat, so we did Isles 3, Isles 2. Yeah, Isles 3 and 2, so 1 and 4 are remaining for us. Land Beyond the Forest, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so 5 there. I've got Rending Mountains 1 through 4, which have texts in it. And then Sands 1 through 5. No, sorry, Sands 1 through 4 and Shires 1 through 5. But it does not appear that there's anything in Shires 4. Yeah, so it really is Rending Mountains, Lone and Level Sands, and Isles. So 2 Isles locations, 4 Rending Mountains, 4 Sands. So that's a total of 10 locations. And 4 of those 10... Sorry, 5 of those 10. So half of the locations are immediately available to us. It's the Vagabonds maps that are going to be a bit of a challenge. So that was probably longer than that needed to be for the closing, but we are definitely we're definitely closing in on our last few tasks, which is exciting. All right, thank you for watching. Take care, and we'll see you tomorrow.